Hi guys. So I'm introducing us for the CA1 for cloud security. I'm Alex Flowers. My student number is 214114114, I think. So I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
My name is Aidan Smith. My student number is X211057774, and I'll be covering security vulnerability scans.
And my name is Preetham Vivek, and my student ID is 241200006, and I'll be covering the WordPress deployment and hardening process. Yeah.
Awesome. Beautiful. So just an introduction one more time. So me, Alex Flowers, Aidan Smith, and Pritam here. We'll be tackling this together. I'll start off here at the beginning to talk about the cloud infrastructure and the overall security that we kind of defined inside the cloud infrastructure. So off the bat, obviously we've spun up a Linux system, an AWS Linux system, as we would with our LAMP stack originally. So there's our instance running that we named Cloud Security CA. Dove into the security group rules. Something to note here, right? For security purposes, obviously we're going to associate our source with our specific IP that we were using to SSH into the box. Besides that, our outbound rules are going to stay the same, right? So, but our security group rules were set to be as secure as possible. We configured CloudWatch off the bat too to be later to feed into Datadog as well. So this is an example of our alarm that we set. Some metrics that we were seeing inside from the alarm, as well as an example of the alarm that we got when we set that up, right? Beautiful. Awesome here. So just I took out the API key here, but this is going to be the Datadog setup too to set up the agent inside of the Datadog, right? So we didn't have the specific way to set up Datadog naturally. We had to use an agent instead, just because of the student kind of way that we were doing this, right? But this is how the agent was deployed onto our instance to be able to connect to Datadog. Here's an example to show us our infrastructure inside of Datadog, that we're receiving that CloudWatch information into Datadog, as well as some metrics from Datadog as well. Additional considerations, just overall. So due to the classic limitations and of the AWS students accounts, we're not able to configure our AMW or IAM roles to attach to these EC2 instances. So in real world scenarios, we're going to for like scalability and securability for any site, any website, but for our website, we would have wanted to introduce an S3 bucket with roles, IAM roles, that we'd be able to feed our data into the S3 bucket, as well as configuring guard duty. Guard duty would have been another big one that would have been useful for any like SOC teams or anything like that too, right? They're going to rely on a lot of guard duty alerts and other things like that we weren't able to configure, but we would have liked to configure in real world scenarios.
Okay, so there's Preetham, and I'll be talking about the phase 2, which is WordPress overview and security hardening overviews. As you can see, we have the architecture diagram where we are having the WAF connected to internet, domain name, and SSL certificates from where we are getting it, and we have the Amazon EC2 instance through which we have connected the LAMP stack and CloudWatch. So basically, the CloudWatch, it is acting as the metrics where we are getting all the alarms, and through LAMP stack we deployed the WordPress site. So yeah, that is how we had the WordPress plugins like WordFence Security, Solid Security Basics, and WP2FA, that is a two-factor authentication. So yeah, so we went ahead and we started with deploying the HTTP as well, and we also, so basically we started with installing the Apache and the PHP installing on the Amazon Linux, and then we went ahead and also configured MariaDB, the MySQL server, and to basically strengthen the MySQL, we did a secure installation where we basically gave it a root password and we removed the anonymous users, and that is how we went ahead and to install to make the WordPress site more secure. We went ahead and we installed a couple of more plugins on the WordPress site, that is WordFence. As you can see, we performed it was an initial scan which we ran, and from you can see the diagram, we had 100% brute force protection, which is an initial thing, and we had the firewall rules set up at 70%, and other web application firewalls which is at 54%. And when we went ahead and we had a WordPress config file, which is WordPress PHP config file, where we went ahead and gave the directories and other folders the permissions of 755 and 644 permissions. And we went ahead and we installed the WP two-factor authentication installed on the WordPress side. As you can see, we have two-factor setup authentication. When we try to log in to the WordPress site, we had two-factor authentication pop-up giving up. So we enabled it over the email and the mobile app as well. We used Google Authenticator. And talking about the domain name, we also associated a static IP, which we called as 13.223.108.212. And we went ahead and took a domain name from name.com, which we also got it from GitHub Developer Kit, and we basically got our SSL certificate installed on Linux. Through the certbot. As certbot was not working with Yum, so we installed it using pip3. So yeah, we had the domain name as cloud API fashion.app. So yeah.
Right. My name is Aidan, and I'll be covering security vulnerability scans, starting with this, the initial Mmap scan. This views open ports and will show that when scanned, it returns 0 ports open. Next, we ran Nikto against the host machine to identify any misconfigurations, and here it identifies misconfigurations such as header not present and HTTP header is not defined, with a few more issues following if you just read the text there. Following from that, we checked the tech fingerprint with WhatWeb, which gives information for what is running on the website. So here you can see all the tools running on our web application. Following from that, we ran WP scan, which is a WordPress specific scan. This checks for vulnerabilities specific to WordPress. You can see in the text present here the vulnerabilities that were discovered. After this, next, we performed a Linus system audit to review vulnerabilities, and here we can see it returns several unsafe responses here on the next page, and on this page as well. You can see all the unsafe responses that were returned when from scan. Following on for that, for mitigation and remediation of these vulnerabilities, we have to update our fail to ban and firewall rules, which further details are in our report. Now handing you back over to Alex.
Yeah, so just overall challenges and resolutions, right? Pretty straightforward. I mean, just some Serbot stuff, plugins for admins, API key validation for Datadog was a challenge too, to make sure. Just a lot of classic talking communication from apps to plugins, stuff like that.
Okay, so talking about the conclusion, yeah, the entire project was a great experience. We learned a lot. It could have been more scalable and reliable as well. But yeah, the entire project represents the end-to-end solution of the deployment and hardening of the cloud WordPress side. We did provision the infrastructure on AWS EC2 instance, where we configured LAMP stack and integrating a domain name and deploying an application on it. Talking about the security, it was enforced on every stage, including infrastructure level, as well as we also considered firewall policies and failed to ban. Whereas on the application side, SSL and TLS certificates, along with the hardening from WordFence and solid security basics. The project also saw the integration of monitoring tools, be it CloudWatch, be it WordFence plugins, be it solid security scans for the brute force attacks. We had them and allowing them for the proactive detection of any events. We also did vulnerability scanners, where we used a couple of tools such as WP Scan, Nikto, and Nmap, which helped us to discover the misconfiguration, and we did found some known CVEs. So yeah, whereas all these challenges were resolved with the best industry practices and their corresponding mitigation strategies, where we put in place to avoid any future occurrence.